Hi guys, today I'm going to show you an indie brand that you may or may not have heard of. I did do a review of this brand, I want to say last year when they sent me their first palette, and this is Arttitude Cosmetics. So they've come out with their second palette, which is called the Abscission palette, and I love the artwork on this. It also came with a really beautiful sleeve that had like some cutouts in it, but I don't know where the sleeve is because I'm terrible at keeping my sleeves. I usually just throw them away as soon as I get the package, and I opened the palette and I was like, like I don't need that. But just keep in mind, it does come with a really nice sleeve. So I'm going to show you 3 looks with this. We're going to do a review, and here's what the palette looks like. It is stunning. Like, I love this color story. It's very fall, while still having some pops of color that maybe are a little bit unexpected. I don't know. It's really beautiful, and I feel like the formula on this palette is better than the formula on the first palette that they came out with. So I'm excited to show you this. This is launching on November 2nd. I think it's at 5 p.m. on their Instagram. I don't know what time zone that is though. So if I know more information, I will leave it down below in my description box. I should know the exact date when I'm putting up the video, so just check there in case you are curious. But yeah, I'm really excited about this palette. I think that you can do a lot with this, and it's a very versatile color story because it does have a nice variety of mattes. It goes from light to dark, same with the shimmers, and there's a lot of really beautiful colors in this palette. I was also sent 2 highlighters from them. I think these are like a new addition to their line. I'm using one of them today, and I'm using the shade called Transition, which is it's definitely like a duochrome or multichrome. It's really hard to see on camera, but it reminds me a little bit of the Kaleidos highlighters. Like, formula wise, this one is very smooth, and it looks great on the skin. I'll put on a little bit more just so you can see it a bit better, but my lighting is definitely not the best to like show off highlighters, and I don't want to mess with it too much because I feel like showing off eyeshadows is more important to me. So just know when I say this is a beautiful highlighter, it's a really beautiful highlighter. I do feel like the formula on the pink one is a little more on the kind of dry side, and it's a little too white leaning for me. I feel like I got a bit of a white cast when I wore that, so I don't love this one as much. I feel like there are better sort of iridescent pink multichrome or duochrome highlighters on the market, so I probably wouldn't recommend this color unless you're very pale and you don't mind a very light based highlighter. But this one is absolutely stunning. Like I said, this is the shade called Transition that I'm wearing today. Absolutely love it. They're also launching some sponge tip applicators, which a lot of people recommend these to me for applying shimmers because sometimes I'm like, the shimmers are hard to pick up. But like, I have tried these kind of applicators in the past, and I feel like for myself, it's just not my perfect method. But I know a lot of people love this kind of stuff. I feel like either when I use my finger or when I use the sponge tip applicator, I can tend to get a lot of fallout. And maybe it's just because I don't know how to do it, but just like a me thing. But they are launching these if you're interested in sponge tips. These seem like really nice quality. They have 3 different shapes on them. I'll show you a little close up if that is something that you are interested in. I think I have a code with the brand. I probably should have looked that up beforehand. If I do, it will be in my description box as well as on the screen, so you can check that out. But I think we should go ahead and get into doing a look with this palette, or I should say another look with this palette, because I have already filmed 2. We're going to do the 3rd look on camera, and I will talk you through it, talk you through my thoughts so far. And yeah, I've been very impressed honestly with this palette. I'm kind of sad that I'm only doing 3 looks for this video, but I do have other things I need to start filming with as well, so I don't really have time to play too much more with this at this very moment, which, like I said, is kind of sad because I'm having a really good time with this palette, and I think that if you guys are interested in this palette, I think you'd have a good time with it too. So please don't be mad at me, but I want to play with some of these neutrals. I know what you're thinking, Annette, what's wrong with you? Why are you like this these days? But I have played with basically all of these 2 bottom rows already, and I haven't used this shade. I don't know if I've used this. I really want to just do like a kind of basic, do I want to do a basic crease? I really want to use this shade, and I feel like it's just gonna look so good with like the darker smoky neutrals. So I think we're just gonna do a very dramatic kind of dark smoky eye with this one all over the lid, which is a multichrome. And I want to test out the formula just to kind of see how it is, and then maybe I can do like a pop of green or something somewhere else. I'm not really sure, but I want to just test out some of the shades that I haven't used yet. So I'm going to start first with the shade up here called New Beginnings, which I did use this in my first look as well, and it's just a nice transition shade. It's quite light though, so if you're any darker than me, I can't promise that this would show up on you, but for me this is a pretty nice transition shade. It could be a little bit darker for my liking, but it definitely serves the purpose of just putting down a little bit of a shade in the crease to blend the other mattes into. And this also works with I would say probably every matte in this palette. If you want to either tone them down a little bit, not make them as intense, you can throw this in the crease first, or you can even use this as a bit of a blending out shade to some of these other shades. So you can definitely see like it shows up, but it's quite subtle, but I don't really mind that. And I found with these mattes, they're actually more pigmented than what I was expecting or what I remembered from their first palette. Like, I was very impressed when I started using this because I didn't see the pigmentation coming when I put it on the eyes. So it is the kind of formula that is very pigmented right off the bat. So you got to be a little bit careful to not like go overboard because it can tend to get out of hand pretty easily if you're not careful. So just something to keep in mind. Maybe go a little bit slower with this formula just because of how pigmented it is, which obviously, I mean, that's a good thing. I'm never going to complain about shadows being too pigmented, but I know some people maybe don't love that and want something that's a little bit easier to work with. But like I said, I personally like when shadows are very pigmented. I can go either way, honestly. I feel like I'm good enough with eyeshadows at this point that I can kind of work around most formulas. So I'm next going to take the shade up here, which is the dark brown called Dead Weight. I want to see just how pigmented this shade is and how it performs. So I'm going to go quite dark with this eye look because I just want to see like how dramatic I'm able to get it. And I also just feel like because the shimmer that I want to use is a black based multi-chrome, I find that having a darker crease usually just looks a little bit better because it makes it easier to blend the shimmer into. Like maybe I chose a brush that was a little bit too big for this, but it's okay if the shade goes all over the lid because I'm gonna put the dark shimmer over the top anyway. But you can see these are very, very, very pigmented shades, and it's also layering very nicely on top of itself. So I'm very impressed so far with the mattes in this palette. I think they are really, really beautiful quality, and like I said, I'm having a really good time with this, and I would definitely recommend this brand if it is something that you're interested in. There are also quite a few different shimmer formulas in this palette. It kind of just depends on what you're into. I would say most of them are very, very nice and smooth. Some are duochrome, some are just basic shimmers, but even the basic, and I say basic in like a nice way, are beautiful. Like they're really nice and shiny. They're super easy to apply. They wear really well. I haven't had any issues really with wear time with this palette. I haven't tried like the flaky shade that I'm going to use today though, so just something to keep in mind. I can give a little update in a pinned comment if you're curious about how that shade wore, because I'm certainly curious how it's going to wear because these shades don't tend to wear the best on me. So absolutely no hate to the palette if this shade that I plan on using today is not one that wears the best on me, because black based multichromes, as I've said many times in the past, do tend to crease on me and just not look that good throughout the day. But we will see. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to test these out for you and let you know how they wear on me. So I'm gonna go ahead and just smoke this out underneath my eye as well, and I do think I'm gonna deepen it up a little bit further with the black just to get this super nice and smoky. I'm gonna wing this out a little bit. I like using the shade that I'm using on my lower lash line to kind of perfect the outer corner shade, and then go back in with the transition shade to kind of blend the edges of where I feel like I need to blend. But I like to just sort of give it a little bit of a flick. That way I feel like I just have more control with where I put the shadows. So just a little bit like that, sort of a bit of a cat eye shape going on here. I like where this is going. Like so far I have zero complaints. I'm gonna take the 14 mini from Rephr, which is one of their newer brushes. I'm gonna dip that into the black shade and just do a little bit of that in the very outer corner. I do feel like this black is gonna be a pretty forgiving black because when I swatched it, it wasn't super pigmented, which I do actually like in blacks, that they're not like in your face black right away, but I do like a black that builds up to being a pure black, and I do feel like this is doing a really good job. Yeah, that is exactly what I wanted out of this black, and this brush is really nice. My first time using it. These brushes should be available already, and I do have an affiliated link with Rephr that gives you 20% off. I'll link that in my description box if you're interested. But these new brushes are really amazing. I've had a great time with them. They've come out with like mini and maxi version of their smaller brushes, if that makes sense. So now there is really something for everybody. If you felt like there was a shape that was missing, or you wanted just the ones that they already had to be a little bit different, you can probably find it in their range now, because these are very unique to my collection. And you guys know I've always liked my Rephr brushes. I think they're just really good quality, and they just apply shadows so nicely. Like, this looks great. Like, I really like that. So we're gonna go in with the shimmers and just sort of see how they perform, see how they look, see how flaky they are. I am going to put down some of my NYX glitter primer like I always do, especially with shades like this. And I'm gonna try not to put on too much glitter primer because it can make shadows crease easier if you put on a little bit too much, but I also just feel like having the glitter primer on just helps so much with the application, especially with like chunkier shades like the one that I want to use today, which is going to be the one called, wow, that is a weird name, senescence. That is a new to me word. I don't know what that means. I'm gonna take the sticky side of my brush that I use to apply my glitter primer. This is how I like applying these kind of shades, and it picks up really nicely that way. So I'm basically just going to, I think, slap this all over my lid and just kind of see how that works on its own. This is definitely a much darker shimmer than what I would normally go for. I do tend to reach for lighter shimmers more often than not. It is really pretty, I will say. I do like this, and I think this will be a really, really nice smoky eye kind of shade if that is something that you're into. I'm mostly just worried about like the wear of this shadow because it is very flaky and it is black based, but we'll see. But I mean, you can't argue that that is not a really beautiful shade. That is really, really pretty. I don't want to take this all the way in because I do feel like I need something a little bit lighter just in the front portion. And I'm wondering if there are any shades that are really gonna do what I want here. I could just use this one, which isn't really the kind of shade I would normally use in my inner corner, but because it is in this palette and I haven't used it yet, I guess we're just gonna go ahead and try that. So this is definitely more of a smooth shimmer. I'm gonna give this a little spritz of some Fix Plus because I don't really have much glitter primer in the very inner corner of my eye. I'm just gonna use this as sort of my inner corner shade, front portion of the lid kind of shade. And honestly, that looks really good with that. Yeah, that was a good decision. I like that. At first I thought maybe this wasn't light enough to do what I wanted it to do, but it's actually doing exactly what I wanted to do. So really happy with that decision. And don't you worry, the other looks that I've done have been much more colorful and fun. But you guys know I've been into the neutral-ish, I should say, kind of looks lately. What I should have done is I should have used a highlighter. I totally forgot, but I'm going to use some of this still underneath my eye. That really would have been a good idea. I kind of regret not doing that, but it's a little too late for that now. But I'm going to put some of that right here just so you can see what the color of this one looks like as well. And I do think I'm going to like this more as an eyeshadow than a highlighter, especially like an inner corner shade, because that looks really nice. And I like that it just adds a little pop of color that we didn't really have beforehand. I think this is all I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna pop on some lashes and some eyeliner, and I'll come back and show you the other two looks as well. So the look is done, and I'm using the Cyberpunk lashes from Unicorn Cosmetics. Let me go ahead and show you the two first looks that I filmed with this palette, kind of give you my thoughts, and if I think that this is something that you should pick up or not. But I feel like already you sort of know where I stand with this palette because I've said a couple of times I've had a really good time with this. I think the formulas are really, really nice. Just to reiterate, I think the mattes are super, super pigmented, so might want to be a little bit careful with them, not going too heavy, but they build and blend like a dream. They're buttery smooth. They're really, really easy to work with, and I think that I feel like most people are going to get along with this formula, like I said before. Unless you're someone who don't like super pigmented mattes, you might not like these as much. They might not be as user-friendly for you as they are for me, but I think they're wonderful. The shimmers, there are a couple of different shimmer formulas in here. I think the just basic shimmers are honestly probably my favorites because I think that they're just So nice, so smooth, so metallic, so easy to work with. They look really good on the lids. They apply well, they wear well. I don't really have any complaints with them. The only shade that I had a little bit of creasing with yesterday is the shade called Transition, which is the green multichrome. I didn't use a lot of it, but I did struggle with that one a little bit. The shade called Seasons, which is the turquoise shimmer that I used on my lid, and that look wore really well. I wore that look for, I want to say 14 hours. I tapped over it once and it was perfectly fine, and it wore perfectly the rest of the night, or the day I should say. And yeah, I think the overall color story of this palette is really nice as well. I think there's a lot you can do with this. It's very versatile. I think this is a palette that a lot of people are going to like. And if you haven't tried this brand before, I would definitely recommend it if you think you would be interested in this. I'm not going to be like, oh my god, you need this in your life, because you really don't need anything in your life when it comes to makeup anymore. But if this palette looks interesting to you and you think it's something that you're going to get some use out of, I think you would like it. I actually really like the inclusion of the sort of neutrally shades in this palette, and I feel like for myself, where I'm at right now in my makeup journey, I really like having a couple of neutrals in my palettes, because I feel like it makes the palette just easier to use, and there's just more you can do with it. And I really enjoy just throwing a matte in my crease and then deepening it up with like a colorful shade, if that makes sense. Like I find that is something that I've been gravitating to a lot lately, and it's what I did in my first look here. And it's just super simple. It's really easy to do. You don't need to, worry about like blending too much. As long as you have two shades that blend nicely together, you'll be fine. And then just throwing a shimmer on the lid and being out the door, it's just really easy. So yeah, I really enjoyed this palette. I think the formulas are nice. I think the color story is nice. I think this is a really nice brand. And yeah, I would recommend it if you're interested. So I guess those are going to be my thoughts. Let me know what your favorite look that I did was. I actually like this look a lot more than I thought I would. Like it's neutral, but it's still very intense, obviously. But I feel like it just kind of goes with my vibe today, which is maybe why I like it. Maybe I should have worn silver earrings. Like maybe that would have been better. Maybe I'll switch after, because I do have these ones in silver too. I get these on Amazon and I really like them. I can link them if you're interested. They were very affordable, and it came in a 2-pack with silver and gold, and I've been wearing them all the time. They're like very lightweight, like I said, very comfortable, and I just think they're really cute. So that's gonna sum up today's video, I think. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see some more indie makeup reviews, I will put my playlist up on the screen. If you don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.